name's Raquel.
And I'm Daniel.
And this is Button English's Podclass.
Welcome to our Podclass. We love doing this because we love talking to each other. So we decided, hey, why don't we talk to each other on camera and let people know what goes on in this crazy house? And it's been fun so far, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what are we going to talk about today?
So today we're going to talk about cities, but like special cities that we've visited that are near the ocean, near the beach.
Not like where we currently live.
Yeah, no. We live a bit far from the beach, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But, and our experiences and our impressions. So that should bring up some interesting words and vocabulary.
Indeed. I hope you guys like it. We hope you like it. Okay, so who starts? You want to go first?
Me?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So...
Which city did you choose, Raquel?
I chose to talk about my experience in Honolulu.
I will forever be jealous of you till we
jealous of me.
Till we set foot in Hawaii together.
There was only one reason that I ended up there. I would never have gone by myself.
But you still did go. So
okay, so let me tell me this is the circumstances.
That's true.
It's my story.
This is her story. Are you ready?
So I have a really good friend who I've known, he and his family, since I was in high school. And he married a girl whose family is from Hawaii, Honolulu specifically. And then they lived for some time in Wisconsin because he was finishing his doctorate and he was an assistant professor at the same time. And then when he finished, they moved to Hawaii so she could do her master's degree there. And so it was her master's presentation because she mastered in dance. And me and a couple of other friends went out there to see and support her. And we, crashed at their place, so I didn't have to pay for a hotel. See, the poor me, that's why I got to go. And, and so during the day, they would be working / dealing with their things, and I was alone.
Wandering in Hawaii.
I stayed a little extra time, of course. I took advantage of their goodwill. But I also cooked for them and washed the dishes and things to try and thank them for their generosity. And it was great.
They scratched your back and you scratched?
Mm-hmm. So I used an expression.
Which one?
To crash at someone's place.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's useful. Let's pause and...
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to ask you to explore two sides of this expression. The one you used and the one about parties as well. Because it's kind
crash
of like,
in both senses.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so what did you mean when you said crash at their place?
So when you crash at someone's place, it just means like you're staying there, but it's kind of an informal staying there. Like usually they don't have like a guest room. So for example, I slept in the living room on the sofa, which was fine for me. I was okay with that.
Well, you were in Hawaii.
I was in Hawaii. So that's what it means when you crash at someone's place. I mean, it's not that they didn't give you permission. Of course, they gave you permission. But it's not like this arrangement like Airbnb, like you have a room with a private bathroom. No, you're just living at their house temporarily. You're staying there for a little while. And usually it's an informal arrangement where you're on the sofa or something like this. And then the idea of crashing a party is kind of similar, except in this case, you don't have their permission. The idea is you just show up at a party that you know is happening, but you weren't really invited. You just
it's just a wedding party. Oh, yeah. I guess I'm going to stay.
So you just go to the party without permission. You just kind of blend in and enjoy and hope that nobody tries to kick you out because you weren't invited.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So you crashed at their house.
Yes.
For how long?
for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And how was your experience? Like, how do you see the city and the beach? How's that interaction? Like, how close are the citizens to the beach? Is there a lot of that going on?
There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
I mean, the city is really nice. And the bus system is really nice. I found it really easy.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't go super far, but
Yeah.
for inside the immediate downtown area, it was pretty easy to navigate. I mean, of course, there's the area that's more touristy, and then if you get away from that, then it gets to be a city, like, lots of apartment buildings and things like that. But it's really nice because you're in Hawaii, so there are always like little mountains and things around to make it look pretty, and almost every day there's a rainbow. I didn't know that before I went to Hawaii, but this is like super common. Like, they have rainbows all the time. It's even on their license plate, I think. There's a rainbow. I'm like, now I know why. So yeah, it's really nice. I didn't, by myself, I didn't go super far. I would take the bus and I would stay in that area. I would take the bus to Waikiki Beach. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I would walk. It was a bit of a stretch to walk, but it wasn't super far. Yeah. So, but most of the time I would take the bus there, and I would just hang out there for a couple of hours on the beach. And the Waikiki Beach is very beautiful, but it's also, because it's right near the downtown area, it's also like very city still. Like, mm-hmm. I mean, there are no buildings like right on the sand. Like, they're all at least one street, across the street kind of thing.
Yeah.
But still, like, you look this way, beautiful ocean. You look this way, buildings, right?
It's not very inviting.
It is.
For a swim.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very nice beach. And because, as I said, there are no buildings on the sand.
Yeah.
It's like they're across the street.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just very urban. Like, it's this juxtaposition. Some people love that, right? I prefer when I'm on the beach, I like to feel like I'm on a deserted island. So even though I loved the beach. Hi.
Sorry. Just adjusting the volume.
Even though I loved that beach, it was great. It's perfect for swimming. It was a super calm beach. Like, really, really gorgeous water, clean, beautiful. But it was very urban and populated too. There is that side of it, which,
It's funny when you use those names, you say Waikiki, Honolulu, they all ring a bell, because even though like a lot of us never went to the States, these words have been a part of our reality for so long, like in clothing and in stores and in dishes at restaurants, like
for me too. Like, I was there, I was like, oh, so this is Waikiki. Okay, cool.
It's nice.
But like I said, there are lots of mountains and stuff. We went. Then on the weekends they would take me places, and we went more to the North Shore, which is a little quieter, not so urban. We went hiking up some of those trails to a waterfall, things like that, which was really nice. And then I also, while I was there, I paid for a dolphin tour. So I went with this little family that had a boat, and so it was a family-run business. Which was funny because I went to there's a kiosk and they sell those things. Mm-hmm. And I saw dolphins. I was like, oh my God, I need to see dolphins. So I want to do a dolphin tour. I want to swim with dolphins in the ocean. Okay. So I went and I said, look, I have no idea what I'm looking for. I just want to see dolphins. Like, I don't know. And so he's like, okay, well, we have several operators. And we started chatting. And he was telling me, like, showing me the brochures. Yeah. And then he said, well, this one, their boat is super new. They just upgraded their boat, and it's like top of the line, blah, 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 blah. And then he looked at me and he goes, but for you, I think you would prefer this one here, because this is a family, and they take people out, and they're very traditional, and da da da. And I was like, me so well. So I bought the tour with that one, and it was really a great experience. Yeah. We went out and saw a bunch of dolphins. It was so cool to be swimming in the ocean and have dolphins around.
Bumping on you at all?
No, one got pretty close. He was curious, and he had a little cut of something. I was like, "You are just naturally curious, aren't you? You get into trouble." But he came and pretty close, but not super close, not close enough to touch. Which you're not supposed to touch animals anyway, because of sunblock and stuff can damage them. But at one point too, it was like I was swimming behind the guy, and I was keeping up with it. I had never snorkeled before, ever. Like I swim a lot because I like to swim, but this was a totally new experience for me.
Yeah,
but cool. I was rocking it. Like people were way back, like couldn't keep up. I was like right behind him, like where are we going? Let's go.
That's fun.
And then at some point...
And the water must have been crystal clear and incredible.
It was pretty clear there, yeah. They know where to go, right? And at one point I was like, where is he going? There are no dolphins around. And then I saw him looking down, and I looked down, and suddenly there's a whole pod of dolphins much deeper than us that is passing underneath. And I was like, this is so cool.
That's awesome.
And then the next part of the day, they usually go to a bay so you can see turtles and fish. But it had rained the night before, so it was too cloudy. We saw a couple of turtles.
Because it stirs the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it got all the sediment.
Okay.
Was all in the water.
So you use cloudy for water as well?
Yeah, you use cloudy for water as well.
I'm not sure I knew that. I don't think I did.
Well, there you go. You can use cloudy for water. When the water's not clear, it's cloudy. Just like the sky. When the sky is not clear, it's cloudy. So,
like when you look inside the water, it does look like clouds. So those, especially when they're moving.
When they're moving, it's true.
Awesome. All right.
And so then usually they do that so you can. And we saw a couple of turtles peeking up on their head and whatever. Yeah. And then they have paddle boards, so I tried that. I fell 3 times, but then I did it. It was cool. Yeah. And then
the stand-up paddleboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they make lunch for you. Like they barbecue some things and you eat on the boat, and they have some music.
That's awesome.
It's really nice. It was just a very genuinely nice experience. They were a super sweet family.
And it doesn't feel like you're on a cramped boat and
there's a bunch of people, but they have a limit to how many people can go at a time and stuff. And it was a very nice experience. It was. I actually have in theater we call it a sense memory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because when we finished eating and everything, then we get the boat starts to make its way back to. Civilization, right?
Yeah.
And they were playing music, and at some point I was in the front of the boat, and the sun was shining, and there were those beautiful mountains.
How about the breeze?
Yeah, well, you're on a boat, so so you're moving on the boat, and that very tacky song by Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson? No.
He's Hawaiian.
Yeah, Jack Johnson, I'm Yours.
That's Jason Mraz.
Jason Mraz. I knew it was somebody. I forgot the name. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to any fans out there. Jason Mraz's I'm Yours started playing. And now every time, I'm not kidding, every time I hear that song, it's like my mind automatically goes to this place.
Well, that's a good place to go.
Right? Jeez. So, it might be a cheesy song, but for me,
my mind goes to a goddamn shopping mall. It's like,
for me, it's fantastic because I am transported to this moment where I was so happy and I had such a nice day and it was so beautiful. So, for me, that song is wonderful.
I want to backtrack a couple of minutes because you used, it was not exactly an expression, but the way you phrased something caught my attention, and I want you to share that with us. You said, in theater, we call it, and you said sense memory. And I don't know, I just want you to expand on that a little bit, because when you mentioned an area of expertise, right, you started talking shop a little bit, and then you said, we call it something. What did you mean by that?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, well, I think this is a pretty common thing. Like if you are part of a community, or if you are part of, or you are an expert in a certain area, like the common practices, it's very common to include yourself. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Because you're a
if
part
you're
of that community.
yeah, like if you were a climate change scientist, you would say, well, we believe that this will happen in whatever 20 years, you know, because you are part of that group of experts that
Yeah.
has come to these conclusions. So
Well, but I guess not everybody knows that you are a theater major.
yeah, I
right? You
studied
graduated.
theater, yeah, so that's why I said we call it.
Yeah. I would do that
sense
with the musical community. I would say
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, we see it this.
not
way.
everyone knows he's a very talented musician and songwriter. So
Well, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm not sure you're gonna like this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Let's go from 1 to 5 stars. Let's rate your experience in Hawaii.
5 stars without a doubt.
Yeah, every aspect of it.
Every aspect of it.
Cost of living.
Oh, okay. Now you're talking about living.
Yeah.
I'm talking about visiting.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
No.
Okay, no. Let's.
Cost of living is insanely high in Hawaii because it's an island and they can't get anything. Everything has to be shipped in. So.
And do salaries keep up with that, or not so much?
I don't really know. I think it's. I don't know.
What about flight expenses? Is it unreasonable, or okay?
It depends where you live.
Yeah, of course. So there are
from
flights
New
from
York-
continental U.S.
Yes,
straight to Hawaii.
Yeah, I went straight from New York.
Ooh, that's a longie.
It's not as long as you would think.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't you have to cross the entire continental U.S. and then a bunch of the Pacific and then?
Yeah, but Hawaii's not as far as into the Pacific as people would assume.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it's far, but
Yeah,
I mean,
like-
I think it was probably 10 hours or so. I don't remember, but
And you think that's not a long flight?
well, it's the same as going to Europe.
Yeah, I guess.
So it's
from,
not-
from New York.
Yeah,
to
it's
Europe?
not like going to Fiji or Australia where
Yeah.
you have to stop because it's so far. It's
Yeah.
like you can get a nonstop flight. I mean, it's usually more expensive, and there are other options that have a connection that are cheaper. But
Okay. What about the locals? Because you come from you grew up in a city where the locals are the butt of a lot of jokes, right? Because they are rough around the edges and they're blunt and blah blah, which is New York. How did you perceive the Hawaiians? Like, how did they treat you?
well, okay, I was there for 2 weeks, and I did lots of touristy things, and I stayed with and I met a Hawaiian family because we went to visit her mom. That was one of the things we did during the weekend. But
That's
That
a very
doesn't-
welcoming situation.
that doesn't give you a peek into the life. But anyway, it's your turn now to talk about a city.
This is going to be heartbreaking. I am going to talk about the 7 months I lived in Sydney.
Yay!
Yeah, I miss it. I miss it with every fiber of my being.
He said he was jealous of me. I'm extremely jealous of him because I have not been to Australia at all. And I'm dying to go. And he got to spend a bunch of time there. So you have much more. I spent 2 weeks in Honolulu. You spent 7 months in Sydney. So
Well, you've been to cities by the ocean, and virtue number one for me, at least. I'm like a very visual person, but there's something about where mountain meets ocean that it's the other cities just don't have anything on that.
it's true.
You go to amazing, fantastic cities that are not by the ocean, and that element is lacking. If you go to Rio, if you go to Sydney, if you go to New York, all of these places, the interaction between mainland and ocean, to me, is just... Oh.
New York less. It's like
Yeah, that's true.
it's like an inlet.
Yeah.
It's not so amazing in terms.
Yeah, well, Sydney is a little bit like that too, but it's not... it's more like a... How can I put it? It's more like a bay that way down there's a river. But it's like this bay is more ocean than anything else.
So let's
So
stop here and try and help people. We mentioned inlet and bay. So can we help them understand a little bit about what are these words and what the subtle difference is between them?
Okay, so I said ocean inlet.
Well, I think I said inlet
Okay.
first, and then you said bay, but you
Okay.
can clarify both.
Yeah. Well, a bay is usually where the ocean meets the continent, and it's a protected area concerning the weather and strong waves and anything. So it normally has this kind of shape, right? And it's usually protected from 2 or 3 sides of the wind. So that's why it's called a bay. And the inlet, did you say ocean inlet?
I
Or-
said just inlet because it was assumed that it was ocean because of
Yeah.
our context.
So what is an inlet?
Oh, an inlet is where like an arm of the ocean starts to come up into. Sometimes it's a river. Sometimes it stops, right? But that's the idea. It's not. It's not a nice. It doesn't create a nice beach or anything. It's just like a little arm of the ocean that comes into the land a bit.
All right. Yeah, well, the coastal area where Sydney is located is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Everywhere you go, anywhere on both sides of that coast, the views are stunning. Of course, the rich people have built all across the 2 sides, and they dominate the shores, right? The famous opera house is right there. So I think they built like a peninsula, a small peninsula into the bay for that purpose. And the famous harbor bridge is also right there too, almost above the opera house. And yeah, so there's a lot of. They also use this inlet for public transportation. So you have city cats, which are boats with 2 hulls and engines that cross people over back and forth between North Sydney and South Sydney. It's a very vast area. Like it's not like New York is very crammed, right? Whereas Sydney is very spread out. It's very hard to tell where it ends, and a lot of national parks are like within the city perimeters. So I must say that I did not spend a whole lot of time in world-class surfing beaches like Bondi. Everybody talks about Bondi Beach. I went there once. I thought it was all right. It's but I mean I come from Brazil, so beaches don't impress me very easily, right? They're amazing. They're fantastic. Nothing against them, but they are a little bit overhyped, I guess, because of the whole surfing culture. But I was in love with a place called Manly Beach, which is from downtown Sydney. You have to get a boat. It's about a 45 minute boat ride. It's like a public transportation. It's like in New York, you would get the ferry to go to Staten Island. It's a much smaller boat, but
Not as scenic to go to Staten Island. Okay, just
scenic. That's a good word. What is the meaning of scenic?
you know what the
Raquel?
meaning of scenic is. Why don't you explain?
Okay, scenic is something that provides you with a beautiful view. Wow. Yeah. Well, but don't be unfair. I mean that. The Statue of Liberty is right there.
I was about to say, aside from the Statue of Liberty,
in Manhattan,
you're
which
not.
is pretty to look at.
Yeah, but that's only when you're going back. When you're leaving,
Yeah.
So
Okay, but anyway, so
the ferry ride is only good to go there and come back like immediately.
So yeah, this boat ride, I want to say it goes northeast, right? So out onto the ocean, and while it's going, you have a view of both sides of Sydney and of all the nature that is vibrant around you, and the ocean. And the weather in Australia is pretty fantastic most of the time, even in the winter. And then when you get there, Manly is actually in a neighborhood. It's a neighborhood. The beach is phenomenal. It's a small village. It's for upper class. It's like rich people live there. There was one thing that amazed me. They built a swimming pool that is fed by the ocean naturally. Wow. So they have like a system of gates. So you go in and the water's fresh, and every once in a while It sort of empties a little bit, and then the waves crash, and then it fills up again. It's pretty fantastic.
That's cool.
And right next to it, there's a national park that you can wander in. There are trails, there are maps, there's a bunch of hills, so you get to see this from all sorts of perspectives. So that place, Menley Beach, is definitely my favorite from that I visited, right? And well, if you go south or north, it's also there's I think it's Wollongong. It's about 70 kilometers south, which is another fantastic beach. A lot of people live there. They treat it as a suburb of Sydney, so they commute to work back and forth. It's another phenomenal beach. It's quiet, so it's not for surfing. It's more for families with kids. There's Kiama right next door too, which has like a funny thing that they call a blowhole, and you always see people making fun of that because Australians don't see the point. What's funny, but Americans find it funny for some reason. Anyway, I don't want to get into it, but it's a rock with like a natural dug hole in like between where the two things touch, and when the ocean comes in, it behaves like a whale.
Yeah.
So it blows like a jet of water up in the sky.
That's what a blowhole is. So
is it?
Yes, that it's the hole on top of the whale's head where they spray the water out. It's a blowhole.
Oh, there you go. Another word learned. Yeah. Well, I was broke as poor when I was living in Sydney because I was on a student visa and we have the 20-hour limit. So there was not a whole lot of driving around. Definitely never drove around. I walked to most places. I lived in one suburb away from downtown, and downtown is by the water. Although it's a wide area. It's a big downtown area. I was pretty close to the ocean, so I would go nearly every day because I worked Friday and Saturday night, and the rest of the time I just went to school and did nothing else. So I got to enjoy a lot, like the everything that was within walking distance. I took trains and I went places and I visited national parks such as the Blue Mountain National Park, which is about an hour and a half away from by train, and it's beautiful. It's mostly eucalyptus trees, the forests, so nothing else grows, which is kind of sad. It's a very quiet forest because they don't yield fruit, so there's no birds. But at the same time, the shade of the forest is very, very exquisite because it's blue, right? And they something emanates from them. I don't know if it's a gas or what it is that makes makes light behaves slightly different than it does in a regular forest. So it intensifies the blue. It's pretty fantastic.
So how would you describe Sydney, like as a city? Like if you had to just describe it as characteristics and also life and the people, what would be some things that you would say?
Okay, well, the Sydney-siders are definitely very kind people. They're busy-ish, but they're Aussies. And Australian people are just, man, for you to have an idea, they don't really take anything seriously. They're very laid back. I went to a soccer game because Australia was trying to qualify for the World Cup. So Australia was playing China, and I went outside the stadium. I didn't have a dollar to my name, and I wanted to visit the Olympic Village from the 2000 Olympics, right?
I think so.
And I just wrote on a notebook. I said I need a ticket, and I just stood right outside the gate. Me and a friend. He was holding the same thing. And then, man, not 10 minutes in, a couple showed up like, look, our friends are not going to be able to come. We have their tickets. Do you guys want to buy it? Buy them or not? I said, look, go ahead. Find someone else because we have no money. We need a donation. And they said, oh, whatever. We don't care. You can have it. So we just scored tickets like that for a national soccer game, which for me, being Brazilian, is a big deal.
So you just said you scored the tickets. Can you explain how that...
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you scored the tickets means you got them for free, and they were something that you actually wanted, right? It's
like a bonus.
Yeah, like a bonus. Good one.
Like you won something.
So I go in, and all these are all painted. It's weird because the Australian flag is predominantly blue with the Union Jack symbol on the corner. So you expect everything to be like blue and red and white, right? I go in and the team is wearing what they call green and gold, which are the colors of my country. That's what we wear when we play. And I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. Why? I actually never found out why green and gold are Australia's colors. But anyway, even on Australia Day, everybody wears yellow and green. And the fans could not care less about the game. You know what they did? They pretended that something was going on. Okay, they're not even looking at the field. They're drinking beer, having a laugh. And the fans all around the stadium, they start chanting like quietly, and then they explode as if something happened on the field. You look at the field, nothing's going on. Someone has a corner kick that goes bad and whatever, game goes on. But the Aussies are like jumping up and down like as if celebrating.
I like it. That's fun.
Oh, it's fantastic. So yeah, so this is Sydney, which is the most serious city in Australia. Right? So yeah, it's a very happy, very easygoing people, very welcoming people too. They're very organized. It's a very clean city given the size of the city. It's pretty clean. There's a lot of free stuff. If you need free internet, you can find free internet everywhere. Zizou just opened the door.
Maybe he wants to say hi.
Hey, yes.
Zizou, do you have any cities that you've visited that you'd like to share with everybody?
This is Zizou. He wants to say his piece. All right, Zizou. What do you want to say?
I want to go to Sydney. say, Dad, I want to go to Sydney.
He doesn't really know what Sydney is, but he would be very happy there. It's a modern city. I remember this was 2008 when I was living there. And I remember there was this place called Customs House, which is basically like a public library / gallery / history museum. And they had something on display there. For the entire time I was there, they had something called Sydney 2030 plan, which is an urban planning. And what they had in mind for the city was incredible because this is 2008. And they were going to shut down the main avenue of the city. I mean, think about the largest avenue in your city. Like in New York, it would be, I don't know, Fifth Avenue, Broadway, something like this. They were going to shut everything down. They were going to eliminate the existence of an avenue, rip off the entire pavement, and create a park in the middle of the city. That was only one of the things.
Kind of like what New York did with Times Square. I mean, they didn't rip off the pavement, but they shut it out of cars. I mean, it's not the whole length because, right, but the busiest section.
So I was like, wow, they're looking this far ahead into the future and preparing and stuff. And there's a lot of that going on. It's a very, very conscientious city in those terms. As a country, they're they use their energy in a very wise way. I remember every house that I
imagine water too. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I had a little sand timer. Every house I went to had a little sand timer in their shower stall that had a 5-minute total run. So people would never shower for too long, you know. And this is a common thing. This kind of practice is so common there. Cool. So awesome. Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. 2 great cities, seaside cities, which means they're by the ocean. So what about you guys? Tell us, what is your favorite seaside city that you have visited?
We want to know.
In our comments. And don't forget to go to our description because we have the link to our page that has, for example, a free online resource guide for your study of English. And, of course, our Instagram and Facebook pages.
All right. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you soon.